Coming up on today's edition of the Alabama Football Report, we're going to be looking at some of the latest transfer portal news, rumors, candidates, and targets. Alabama's already landed a transfer portal signee already so far, and guys are already hitting the portal. So we'll talk about all the latest news and rumors around that. Before we get into it, though, I just want to make sure everybody knows there is only one transfer portal window this year. They ended up changing that. Last year they had a winter portal window. Then they had the spring portal window. The window now is only from January 2nd to January 16th. But the reason you've seen some players already hitting the portal is because there was some coaching turnover. Those teams have already hired their new head coaches. Then that 15-day window opens up as well. So when you see guys, getting posted that they're, entering the transfer portal, make sure you look at the verbiage there. Is it expected to hit the portal? Is it already in the portal? Just wanted to touch on that so everybody kind of knows what's going on right now with the college football transfer portal. Make sure, though, you guys are subscribed. We'll continue to update you guys on, the college football playoffs, any Alabama football news or rumors, coaching changes, anything like that. And also, transfer portal, what we're talking about here on today's show. We are trying to catch the Michigan Football Report in subscribers as the #1 college football channel here at Chat Sports. By the way, we did also add an Oregon football channel as well. So if you're, interested in the Ducks as well, you can go check out, that Oregon channel here at Chat Sports as well. But the main goal, we are trying to catch CEO here, James Yoder, the host of the Michigan Football Report, firing Sharon Moore. Got them kind of a bump. We were really working on those subscribers, really starting to catch them. And when all that Sharon Moore news happened, last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was at this point, time kind of runs together. Kind of got a little bit of bump in subs. So I want to catch them before the year ends. So help me out and hit that sub button. All right, like I said a second ago, Alabama already landed a player in the transfer portal. Oklahoma State tight end Josh Ford has officially signed with Alabama on Tuesday. And, he is a sophomore coming over from Oklahoma State. He played in, I think, 12 games his first year there. But here in his sophomore year, only played in 4 games. So I'm going to be interested to see how much eligibility he's going to have remaining. I think he could end up using a red shirt if they end up going down that route. I don't know why you wouldn't, but I don't know if there's any rules where it's like, oh, if you're transferring, then it's like, your one team has to use the red shirt. I don't know. Red shirts can be kind of weird there. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how much eligibility he does have left. 6'6", 265 pounds. He's going to be a physical blocking, mainly type of tight end. He can do some stuff. He is an athletic guy. I've seen a lot of comps as well to, Robbie Oots, which I think is a very, very good comp for him. There are some highlights of him making some nice grabs out there, but I think for the most part, he's going to fit that Danny Lewis Jr., Kaleb Edwards type of role in this Alabama offense. Josh Cuevas is leaving for the NFL after this season. Alabama also is bringing in Max Sutter from their 2026 recruiting class. He's going to be one of those more extremely athletic type of pass-catching tight ends. Brody Dalton is a redshirt senior, so unless there's some weird type of waiver stuff going on, he's going to be gone. Sammarco, by the way, is also a sophomore, but he really didn't play at all this season, so he could end up being a transfer portal candidate for Alabama as well. I want to talk about Danny Lewis Jr. here for a second, too. I keep seeing people online, kind of assuming that adding Josh Ford means that Danny Lewis Jr. is going to end up hitting the transfer portal. And I'm not saying that that's not going to happen. He has already done it before back, I think it was December of 2024, if I remember that correctly. But the staff ended up convincing him to come back. And, he has been banged up a lot over the past 2 seasons. But I still think that he makes a massive difference in this Alabama run game when he is healthy out there playing. But there is plenty of room on this Alabama roster. It's not one guy comes in, one guy has to be forced out. Scholarship count went from 85 to 105. So they've got plenty of room on this roster to fill out and add a couple more bodies, to whatever room they think it ends up needing. I think tight end's going to be one. I think wide receiver's going to be one. I think offensive line's going to be one. They always love edge rushers, so we'll see what they end up doing on that front and what positions they end up targeting. But I don't know if, he's going to stay or if he's going to go, but I hope he does stay because I do really think he makes a massive difference in this Alabama run game when he is healthy out there and playing. So I want to hear from you guys down at the pinned comment of today's show. Will Danny Lewis Jr. end up hitting the transfer portal? Let me know what you guys think. Type Y for yes or N for no. Like I said, it is the pinned comment of today's show. Now, Alabama is also expected to hire former Auburn offensive coordinator Derrick Nix to replace Jamarcus Shepard as Alabama's new wide receivers coach. We put that short out yesterday when that news ended up breaking, and there are a lot of ties here to Alabama. I know there's going to be some people out there that are saying, well, Auburn, their offense was pretty stagnant, didn't look very good over the last 2 seasons with Derrick Nix, calling the plays there. I think a lot of it had to do with Hugh Freeze just being a pretty bad head coach at the end of the day. And I think some of it also had to do with the quarterback situation there at Auburn. But when you look at his history, you look at the players that he's brought in to both Ole Miss and to Auburn, he's a very good recruiter, and he has got a lot of experience being a coach here. 2003 to 2007, started off at Southern Miss. He was a GA, tight ends coach, running back coach. Ole Miss, he was there for, I think that adds up to like 16 years there from 2008 to 2023. Started off as the running backs coach, then went to wide receivers, and then was the associate head coach there at Ole Miss. Ends up following Hugh Freeze after a couple years being under Lane Kiffin over to Auburn as their offensive coordinator and running backs coach. And there are a lot of ties to this Alabama coaching staff right now. Back when Alabama was about to, getting to the Iron Bowl, Kane Womack was asked about Derrick Nix because there is some overlap here. And Kane Womack just straight up said, I think the world of Derrick Nix. I've known him since I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Got great family ties. My sister was actually the surrogate for him and his wife and carried their daughter, Ava. So that's interesting there. Almost blood, I guess is what you could say there when it comes to relation there to Kane Womack and Derrick Nix. More ties as well. This one from Mike Rodak saying Kane Womack's father, Dave, and Derrick Nix's brother, Tyrone, coached together at Southern Miss and South Carolina. Derrick Nix served on staff at Southern Miss when Kane Womack played there, and Derrick, and Dave later coached together at Ole Miss. So there's a lot of ties here. I did see Marquise Mays, put a tweet out yesterday saying that, he doesn't like that Kalen DeBoer is hiring, coaches from Auburn. Look, he was at Ole Miss for way longer than he was at Auburn at the end of the day. And, when it comes to players and when it comes to coaches as well, this staff, Kalen DeBoer really likes to put together good people, and I do think this is going to end up being a very good hire for this Alabama staff to be a replacement for Alabama's wide receiver coach in Jamarcus Shepard. All right, we'll continue, and why that might be a massive deal for targeting guys in the transfer portal here in just a second. But this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the holiday season, best time of the year for sports. You got bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every single day, what gifts to buy around the holiday season, what bowl games to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that is on PrizePicks. On PrizePicks, by the way, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose the flex play where you get paid even if one of your picks misses. But if you want the biggest payouts, go with the power play because no matter how you play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. This is what I got cooked up for a little 2-pick power play for this Alabama versus Oklahoma game in the first round of the college football playoffs. Going with John Mateer, more than 34.5 rushing yards. And then, can Alabama get Ryan Williams cooking a little bit? 1.5 receptions really isn't cooking, but get Ryan Williams the ball, man. He's one of the best playmakers on this team. We're going to go with the more than 1.5 receptions there for Ryan Williams. PrizePicks, by the way, super, super simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players' stats, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in today. So get in on the action. PrizePicks is now available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and yes, PrizePicks is available in Alabama as well. So download the app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link, by the way, going to be down at the pinned comment of today's show. Also going to be down in the description of today's show as well. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Now, with Alabama hiring former Auburn offensive coordinator Derrick Nix as their new wide receivers coach, I thought about this. Might as well see what Auburn wide receivers you could possibly poach in the transfer portal. Number one is going to be Malcolm Simmons, and he's actually already in the transfer portal. He has already entered, so he's a name. He's a guy that's already out there. Over the past 2 seasons, he's had a pretty good run here. About 450 yards each season. Does some things in the run game. 5 receiving touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown for him. But the game that really sticks out to me, really 2 games, really, the second to last game when Auburn played Mercer, he went off. But he also did some damage against Alabama in the Iron Bowl this year. Had 3 catches for 143 yards, averaged almost 50 yards per reception, and had that 1 touchdown right there coming out of halftime. I do think that he could add, some electric, playmaking ability to this Alabama offense. And at the end of the day, I think you could get it for cheap. And I think that's a big thing for Alabama when it comes to getting guys in the transfer portal. So what position do you think Alabama should target the most in the transfer portal? Is it offensive line? Is it tight end? Is it quarterback? Is it running back? Is it wide receiver? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section of today's video. All right, how about another guy that's already in the transfer portal? Former Alabama commit and also former alumni of my same high school, Foley, Alabama, Perry Thompson. Like I said, he was committed to Alabama at one point for a very long time under Nick Saban, and then he ended up flipping to Auburn. And it was kind of crazy, the comments that he made, saying that Hugh Freeze, develops wide receivers better than Nick Saban. That's probably the wildest statement I've ever heard. But look, coming out of high school, he was a very highly ranked guy. Number 5 player out of the state of Alabama, top 50 guy in the country. But over the past 2 seasons, he just really hasn't gotten a lot of run here for the Auburn Tigers. 22 games played, only 22 receptions, and only 1 touchdown. So Perry Thompson could be another guy that you could add into this Alabama wide receiver room, that I think, some guys on this Alabama team like as well. He was friends with Ryan Williams, so, I wouldn't put it past him. And I do think he's another guy that could end up, being pretty cheap out of the transfer portal as well. About the name that everybody right now, really everybody in the country is talking about, and that is wide receiver Cam Coleman. As of right now, he has not quite entered the transfer portal yet, but we'll see kind of what those conversations end up going like here with Cam Coleman. If he stays at Auburn, if he ends up hitting the transfer portal here, he is a big-time target right now for a lot of teams out there. And, when it comes to tampering too, tampering really, I say it isn't a thing in the sense that it's not illegal because nobody really cares if you tamper. I'm sure he's getting some offers right now. He was Auburn's number 1 wide receiver this year in terms of yards that he's collected. He was the number 2 wide receiver in that 2024 recruiting class, number 5 player overall. The only problem with trying to get Cam Coleman here at Alabama is I think he would end up being pretty damn expensive. I've seen rumors out there what it would possibly cost. Around $2 million is what I've seen. I don't think Alabama would end up going down that route. Adding a guy in the transfer portal for that much money just really isn't Alabama's MO. Courtney Morgan, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, did a interview with Yay Alabama, and he talked about Alabama's roster building plan. It kind of happened when the 2026 signing class was kind of, signing here to Alabama. Courtney Morgan basically just said that, they like to recruit, good players, but also good people from high schools that fit, this Alabama culture that they're, building under Kalen DeBoer right now. Guys that they think, would be totally bought in here, to Alabama. And some of those guys are going to cost more. Some of those 5 stars are, of course, going to cost more than, some of the 3 stars, some of the guys that, you're adding late out of JUCO. But, they're more in the business of retaining their roster right now. You saw Ohio State do it last year to win a national title. You saw Michigan do it 2 years ago to win a national title. If a guy has a good season, they would rather give a guy a raise if a recruit ends up flipping. And, if those guys, revenue share, if they were getting anything at all, they would just like that money to go to somebody else. I think would Alabama, take Cam Coleman, hell yeah. I think they would absolutely want to add Cam Coleman to this roster, but probably not for the multiple $1 million that I think he would end up receiving somewhere in the transfer portal, because the NIL market is insane right now. Cam Coleman could get that from somebody out there. Either way, he's not in the transfer portal quite yet, so I guess we're all just going to have to wait and find out together.